I guess to recap last game, close, and then just kind of let it get away from us a little bit. Maybe not to the extent of a Penn State, but we were close, and they made big plays in overtime. We did not. So we got to kind of get over it. I think that was maybe the most recent game where we had it won and then gave it away. You know, like Indiana, Michigan State, Michigan. We didn't have the game won. This one we did. So got to get over that devastation part of it a little bit and move on. So we will.
How much of a challenge does Purdue's front court pose, especially with some of the size issues that you guys have?
A lot of issues there. I mean, because they're so big. You know, we'll have to try to play Bakari and Gas, use them, but they pose a lot of problems with everybody. Where last year we had Mo and Elliott, I thought they did a pretty good job on those guys. So everybody needs to be ready. And obviously Murph and Joey, a little bit more difficult to play with that small lineup just because of how big they are. So we've got to do a good job of everybody helping out in post defense.
I was going to say, you started that small lineup last game. You said that you liked it. Do you have to decide between going with a lineup that you think plays really well together versus just getting size out there?
Yeah, I think it's a couple things. I mean, I think our small lineup, when you refer to Murph and Joey together, is hard to guard, but it may not be the best when it comes to rebounding and defense. So you kind of got to pick and choose what you want to do. That's something we're thinking about. We've looked at all different types of lineups. We'll do it again tonight, see how it looks. But yeah, I mean, you give up one thing to gain another, but that's something you have to kind of decide. I think they are a good example of they're not going to change. Like, they play Swanigan and one of those bigs together, and they propose problems for you, and they're going to stick with that.
What have you seen differently from this year? Obviously, that addition of Swanigan, but AJ is playing at a higher level too.
Well, Swanigan gives a different dimension because last year they played Vince Edwards at the 4, Rayfield Davis, those guys, where now they're playing two centers. So it's an issue when it comes to rebounding and defending. So that part of it is different. They're a very, very good team. Now, they played a really good team in Iowa last game, and Utah is a potential player of the year in our league, especially even nationally type candidate, and he kind of took over in that second half. So we got to be ready, obviously, because they're a very good team.
With Jordan's foul trouble, which has been pervasive all through Big Ten schedule.
Good work.
Thank you. How much of a problem is that? I mean, do you consider that among one of your biggest concerns right now, just with how well he is playing when he is on the court?
Yeah, it's a problem because I think if you look at right now, we've got 9 scholarship guys available, and when he's on the court, I'm sure with the NBA they have that plus minus. I'm sure he's the most positive of any of our guys when he's on the court. But he just gets himself in trouble with silly fouls, not even, meaningful fouls. Like his first 2 last game, were so unnecessary, and it puts him on the bench. We need him to be in the game. We need him to play a lot of minutes because he's extremely efficient when he's out there.
Can you put your finger on why it seems like, he's fouled out only a couple times, I think twice, but he gets those first 2
Gets
really
the first
fast.
2 quickly, and then he's kind of done a better job of moving on past it. I think it's experience. I think it's understanding when you're beat, how to kind of cut a guy off without fouling. I think he gets himself in trouble with that a little bit. So I think he kind of gets caught in the heat of the moment a little bit, gets beat defensively, and then tries to make up for any fouls. So I think once he, learns how to do it on the court a little bit, I think they're freshman mistakes. I really do.
You think it's still just a balance for him on learning how to come out with aggressiveness and intensity, but not overdo it to the point where he's getting fouls?
I think he needs to learn how to defend without fouling, and it's a balance with him. Sometimes he'll play bad defense and he'll go, well, I don't want to foul. And I said, well, you don't have to foul and play defense. So I think he's figuring that out.
How do you change up the message as you go along when you're trying to find confidence in this team, trying to instill it? What do you try to do? Do you try to do something different, or do you stay the course and just say keep doing what we're doing and it'll work out?
Yeah, I think over the last 3 games we're pretty close. I think we needed to change the course a little bit after Nebraska and Northwestern, but now I think our last 3 games, obviously Illinois, I thought we had the game won. At Michigan, it was a fight there, and then home was Indiana. So I think we're playing well. It's a little bit different. I think 2 weeks ago we had to change the course a little bit, change the lineups a little bit. Where now I think it's okay, guys. We're a possession or 2 away from getting what we want. So it's staying positive with them, but as well as teaching them. Sometimes with young teams, when you have like a devastating loss like the last one, sometimes you're like, okay, we don't want to even show the film, we don't review it. I don't think you can do that with young guys. I think there's so much to learn from those guys. Staying positive, making sure you keep it fun. This is we're in the dog days here. You got 2 seniors that you don't want them to quit. I mean, I don't think they will. I don't think they're like that. But you got to make sure they're still enjoying it and talking about that as well.
I heard you talking on your coach's show. How much harder is that with the external things that these guys see, hear, experience?
I don't know.
You can say everything you want, but when they're not around, they're going to hear.
Yeah, I think they're probably numb to that now. I think we're a little past that now. I think now they want to fight for each other. I think it's hard when you lose. I've said it a lot. In today's world, you can't hide. Everybody knows with Twitter, social media. I mean, they can get to you. That's why a little thing I've done is take away Twitter. Not that it's a whole lot, but I think it's difficult because we're kind of a beat your chest society. I think that's what guys. That's why they want to win a lot of the time. So. Just getting them to still understand that you're working hard. I mean, these guys do work hard. Like that's never been the issue. Practice has never been the issue. Playing hard. I think we're starting to consistently do that a lot better.
Nate Mason took over for a spell the other night. Do you believe you got to have a go-to player to win in the Big Ten, and you need to be able to designate one, so to speak?
I do think that, and I thought he did that versus Michigan. He had 25 points. I think he did that last game. I think whenever you see really good teams, especially at a level like we're at in the Big Ten, you got to have guys that take over. He's starting to do that, starting to make big plays when things break down, and that's extremely important. I think I hope over the next 5-6 weeks he takes a giant step forward because it needs to become his team, and I've talked to him a lot about that, and I'm starting to see it in his eye a little bit.
You talked a little bit on your radio show yesterday about dealing with criticism and your family dealing with criticism. Is that the most difficult part of it, you think? Just, trying to make sure those surrounding you don't get overwhelmed by it? And
we have to insulate my 1-year-old and my 4-year-old. No.
To you,
I think, with my wife, certainly, she needs to understand and not read into it. For me, because I've been a coach's son, I am a coach's son, I've kind of grown up around it, so I can deal with it a little bit better. But I always find whenever if my dad's teams lose, it's always like my brothers and my sister who take it really hard. We're coaches, you get a little bit insulated, and you just kind of, it's part of the deal. When you're a coach, you block out the criticism. You don't read it. You don't do those things. You don't allow yourself to have that idle time. Where families don't have that as much. So yeah, it's difficult. But for me, I've always said it. I mean, we're 0-8 in conference. I don't expect a lot of good things to be said and written. That's not the way that it works. I just got to keep trusting in what we're doing. And believe in. There's going to be better times ahead, and our guys are playing hard. They're moving in the right direction, and that's all I can really do. I mean, nobody likes being criticized. Nobody does, but that's part of the job, and I don't take it personally.
And you talk about your family players, but also recruits too. I mean, some people ask us, can they decommit? But no, they've signed. I mean, they're committed to you guys, and they know that you guys have a better future ahead.
What are you getting at?
They have to be in public dealing with the criticisms about the Gophers as well. They might hear some of that as well.
Yeah, I don't think they think like that. I think they think, I think they know where we're at. I mean, we always said, and I'm not trying to defend myself, but I'm answering your question. But I mean, we always thought this was going to be like a year one, and we were going to start over. And I think every program goes through it. I think when you look at the young guys in this program. I think when you look at the transfers sitting out as well as the guys we're bringing in, I think you're going to see a much different team. And that's not to say this team's not competing. I think they are. So I don't worry about that at all.
You thought about imposing a Twitter ban at home and with your wife? She's not allowed to look at Twitter either.
I don't think she's on Twitter, so yeah, that'd be a good one.
Does the money though negate? I mean, does that make you fair criticism? If you're going to make a lot of money and coach in this profession and get all that goes with it, do you say to a wife, a son, a daughter, you say, look, I can go do something else, but we're not going to live in this house if we don't, there's trade-offs.
That would not work with my wife. I always say, if they know what you make, you're fair game. And I just think that's the way it works. Again, I'm not taking it personal. Like you said, I mean, when people know what you make and you're at a job like this, you're open for it and you're open to it. And again, I don't take it personally. That's kind of the way this thing is set up. People. I always liked when I watched Pete Carroll last year. He had an interview with Matt Lauer, and he made that controversial call. And Matt Lauer said, how do you feel about the things people say? And, Pete Carroll made a good point. He goes, they don't know and they really shouldn't know. And that's not a knock on people. They're not here every day. They're not with us every day. They don't understand what we're going through every day. And that doesn't mean they're wrong. Sometimes we do deserve criticism, and I do deserve criticism. And listen, when we're 0-8, it's on me. When we don't have a full roster of scholarships, it's on me. So blame me, and I'm fair game for it. So I understand it. Maybe I deal with it a little bit better because I'm a coach's son, and I've kind of seen it. I learned a lot. My dad was at Kentucky, and then he went to the Celtics. And, he's on top of the world at Kentucky, and then he goes to the Celtics and doesn't really win. He gets criticized. So I kind of been able to block it out a little bit. But again, I think family members deal with that a little bit. But I'm definitely not going to say to my wife what you said to say, because she would kick me out of the house.
I believe it was McHale ain't coming through that door, Bird ain't coming through that door, and Parrish ain't coming. Isn't that the famous quote?
That was the one. I remember it was actually funny. He did that. I was at the game. Vince Carter hits a 3 at the buzzer, and they must have left. They went to go somewhere on a game afterwards, and he had no idea just the magnitude of that. Because I went to school the next day, and everybody's making fun of me and what your dad said and this and that. And I remember him saying to me "Boy, is that a big deal over there?" I'm like, "You have no idea, buddy." But that's part of the deal.
Couple more for Coach. He turned out okay.
Who? Yeah, he's fine.
He rebounded nicely.
He's fine.
Well, Jordan, with the foul issues, I mean, how do you handle that in practice? Just trying to get him to defend better. I mean, do you always have a whistle on him?
Yeah. We call a lot of fouls in practice. The new rules, which they don't seem to be new rules anymore. Kind of, we're back to the old way. I think just feels like that. But yeah, I think when you don't have a lot of depth right now, you got to call everything and teach them how to defend without fouling.